I saw this recently. If you take Republicans out of their echo chambers and you try to, explain to me your points, and then you go watch Matt Walsh, and it's this older bearded guy rambling about the genitalia of children. Okay. Sure, dude. Very, very convincing to a broader audience, outside the kind of people who already watch Daily Wire YouTube videos. Yeah, you're looking great. This was from a podcast recently. Look at this. This is from Trigger Pod. This is for the pod that triggers you. How big is this podcast anyway? 120,000 followers on Twitter. That's not nothing. And like all podcasts these days, they have people show up in person, of course. But in this case, that's a good thing because it means we get to laugh at this guy directly.
I started to notice weird things happening with my kids. So the first one was my eldest son a few years ago. I said, give me a kiss goodnight or a hug goodnight, whatever. And he went, no, you need to ask my consent. And I was like, do I? And he said, yeah, at school they say you've got to ask consent. And I said, I'm your dad. And he said, yeah, but you still have to ask consent. And I went, okay, we're going to have a little lesson on consent here. Consent is don't touch a stranger's private parts, all right? That's consent. Don't invade someone's space in that part. I'm your father.
So I'm your father, so, I get to touch your private part. Well, yeah.
So anyway, I wrote to school and I said, what's going on here? Because he's obviously not understood consent. And they said, well,
he's not understood consent. Doesn't he understand? I'm his father. I can molest it. Well, you've not explained to my son that I'm part of the exception. I'm the other group that does, in fact, get to ignore consent. The pedocon theory keeps getting proven over and over again.
You don't really get to the sexual part of it.
Is this the guy who played Hunter Biden in the wacky movie The Daily Wire made? Oh my God! Is it? It totally is. Doing his best soy face here. Oh my God, man! It all keeps running back around. It all keeps coming back. Holy shit! Yeah, starring Lawrence Fox. That is just incredible, man. The idea of a Republican political organization making a hack movie to accuse the president's son of being a sex fiend, and the main actor they cast then goes on a podcast to explain how because he's his son's father, he doesn't need to ask for consent, is truly incredible. Living in a simulation material. I've always said that Republicans are politically opposed to consent as an idea. Like, it's not just Republicans interpersonally, don't respect consent as a concept. They're politically opposed to it,
Until later. And I said, well, you can take it from me. I've just taught both of my children consent, lesson 1, in about 5 minutes.
Lesson 1, I'm your father and I get to touch you wherever I want.
And then, I started going, okay, well, where is this stuff coming from? So it comes out of relationship sex education classes and PSHE and stuff like that. So I got some lesson plans from another school and found out what was on it, which is privilege, skin color privilege, gender ideology, diversity, equity and inclusion, all of the things that you just don't want kids being taught at a young age when they're confused as it is. And so I thought we got to change that. So we're going to do that as well. That's what which is our next sort of cultural project.
Now, they're going to make a movie off this lesson that he learned. How'd you decide to write this movie? Okay, well, my son told me I couldn't touch his body however I wanted. And I said, son, I'm your father. What other woke ideas are you getting taught in the school? Now, I might be putting a little bit too much faith in the average person here, but I genuinely believe, and I stand by this, that the average American would find this repellent. I genuinely believe that outside of the conservative bubble, your average independent, not even progressive, just a regular, totally politically disaffected American would watch this and think, what the fuck? What the fuck? And they'll feel that way, I think, when they're watching Michael Knowles, when they're watching Candace Owens, who literally had to bleep and censor herself because her rhetoric against trans people was so dehumanizing that YouTube would have banned her for it, with Matt Walsh. And I think, I don't know, man. I have a little bit of hope. I think the Republicans might be overcommitting a little bit. Maybe Vermin, but it might be the way he phrased it or the way he's onboarding it. You know what I mean? It might have been like he didn't add any caveats there and just sort of came out against the idea of consent being necessary when it's a family member. a family member, but I agree people do tend to be really weird about their children. I'm hoping they over consolidate, they overplay their hand here, because I feel like at that point this is pretty much our only hope. I don't really have that much faith in the Democrats to to protect us. You know, they can be a bulwark, but I don't think they'll like fix this problem. But I think there could be a massive cultural backlash if the Republicans end up consolidating too much too fast. Think of what happened with Kanye. Kanye was following the Republican right-wing grift ticket, wasn't he? He interviewed with Tucker Carlson. He was wearing the MAGA hat. He was buddy-buddy with Trump a couple years ago. And then he ramps up and up and up. And they love this, you know, MAGA Kanye. And then he starts Sieg Heiling, and they're like, oh, we need a couple more steps before we go there, don't we? But that's what happens when you're committed to reactionary rhetoric, isn't it? Fascism is committed at all times to escalation. It must initiate the conflict, and the conflict must always have its stakes risen. There can never be downtime in fascism. Everything has to be an existential threat. There's no room for the GOP to back off and go, okay, trans people are a big problem, but like we have other things to focus on right now. They're incapable of that rhetoric. They can't do it. They can't do it. So they have to keep ramping up and up and doubling down and doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. I mean, they're so committed to doubling down that when Matt Walsh had all those creepy videos like, from a couple years ago of him in a car talking about like the breedability of teenage girls, he defended them, which is crazy. Like just a couple of years ago, any political figure, if stuff like that had come out about them, they would have like stepped down. But now he didn't. Now he just doubled down. He kept defending it. You know, you woke moralists, we'll see who cancels who. And it escalates and it escalates. And if it keeps escalating that much farther, man, I really don't think the GOP is going to have much to say other than just flat out like, yeah, man, like just, yeah, kill, kill, kill. And if they go that direction with their ideology already being this waveringly popular, this is not the support base necessary to go about things like this. Keep in mind, this is just support and opposition for gender-affirming medical care for minors. This is not support and opposition for trans people broadly. You know what I mean? Weren't the Nazis also unpopular, though? Yeah, well, see, that's the other thing. Nazis did not get to where they were through a democratic mandate. You know, they did. There were some shenanigans. We do a little bit of emergency powers. We do a little bit of the Reichstag is burning. We do a little bit of Hindenburg's a fucking cuck. You know, a lot of stuff played into that. Hopefully that doesn't happen again. Obviously, if they're just going the coup route, which they want to, they don't need full public support. Though a lack of public support will make things difficult for them in the long run.